welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. This is update number 36 of my HO scale layout, and it is February 2023. So I'm on vacation this week, and I was able to do a lot, including this update, hopefully, if I can get it uploaded. And the vacation started off with an op session, which was really cool. It went really well, probably the best I've had so far. And that was because of my friend Mark Sullivan, who was able to develop a timesheet with dispatching orders and everything that helped kind of move the traffic along much better than in the past, where we were just kind of going for it and not really having a real sequence. And that also helped other jobs. Like I started with I started adding like yard master jobs and also like short line jobs, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, so the beginning of the vacation was that, and then that kind of inspired me to do more things around the layout, and I've done a lot. So let's get going. So the way I'm going to show you this is by taking my Amtrak from the southern station, or the southern staging, up, and as we go through the layout, I'll talk about what's been going on. So since we're on that topic, one thing that I wanted to do a little better was the Amtrak running on the session. So what I ended up doing is deciding to, instead of like going around staging every time I started with the Amtrak, which was my original plan. Here's the Amtrak line right here. The original plan, since this did not exist, was just to basically have a little stub-ended track here, which is what I had before. And then whenever track 4 cleared up, I would just take the Amtrak out and head north. But again, my friend Mark suggested, why don't you just make it like point A to point B without doing a return loop, just kind of either you're going one way or the other. So that kind of sparked an idea, which is to take leave this alone the way it is. I'll have the option to go that way if I want to, but more importantly, I can just go north directly through here, avoiding all of the staging tracks. So now I don't have to wait for, let's say the coal train is here, which is, I think what's there right now. But I don't have to wait until that coal train moves for me to take an Amtrak, which would be, a more priority type train. So now I could just, when Amtrak's ready to depart, I could just bypass all that by going this way, even though I'm going against traffic for a split second. I mean, literally, it's like right where it changes direction with the reversing loop, and then head north, take it all the way to Plattsburgh, and then head back south again, rather than continuing on or just turn around and come back. Now I am going to add another little siding up here somewhere, like a little stub-ended thing, so that once I get up here, I just turn right back around and come back down. So I think that's going to make things a little bit more interesting. And let me show you what it actually looks like. Grab my throttle. So lower staging, for Amtrak, I consider this to be kind of like Penn Station. Just, it's below Schenectady, which is really where my layout starts. I just figured all these trains are coming from the city on the Amtrak track. So originally, all I had was this turnout here for track 4. And then it just kind of went straight this way and stopped right there. So what I did is I curved the track, which also gives me more room to stack trains if I want to. And then I took it all the way through here, and then I made a separate spline for that track. I was going to squeeze it back there with the other one, but then the inside turn would have been really tight. So this allowed me to open up the radius a lot more. And then I just threw a turnout right here, hooked it up with a Torres machine and a powered frog, and then that green tape is where the gap is. So you can see as soon as it gets into the track, you're in the reversing loop right there, and then on your way out. So we're gonna go ahead and we're lined up, I think. Let me just double check that. All right, so it looks like we are lined up here. Here's the new turnout, and here's the turnout at the crossover, which would typically be outbound going this way. Sorry, inbound going this way, and outbound going that way. So I'm heading obviously in the opposite direction. The only bad thing about not having signaling here is that I can't select the signal until I get here, because typically you would clear this signal to head out. There's no reason to have a signal here, right? Because all traffic has been going this way up until now. So I gotta somehow get a signal over here. I tried doing it before, it didn't work, so I gotta just play with it. And then I'd like to have one on the way out also, so we don't have any collisions there. But I'll figure out, what needs to happen there. I might have to move all this over a little bit to give myself room to get the signals in there and stuff. But we'll see. Anyways, let's go run train. So here's my Amtrak. The one thing I am potentially going to do here, since it's Penn Station, is I'm going to throw in this curved turnout right here, which will then allow me to put another parallel track here, have the room. This can move back a little bit. I can squeeze another train in here. And this way I can, as one train's coming out, or rather if one train comes in, I can park it and then have the other train that's waiting on the other track go out. So I might do that. Just make things a little bit more interesting. Of course, I got to buy a train first, which, is not easy. So, baby steps here. Anyway, so we're heading out here. You can see this is a lot smoother now. This radius, rather than pushing it back there. And as we come out, this is where the outbound track or inbound track connects. And then that's where the gap is for the reverse loop. So you can see it's right there. It's not a big deal. So while that's heading north, I am going to talk to you about this real quick because I just saw it. So I got this phone hooked up for the yard master, which is, this job here, including back there too. So this will eventually be a pretty big job for one person. But the cool thing is that I discovered this thing. I mean, it's not anything new. It's a PBX box. This one is called a PABX box. It's down here. And what that allows me to do is just basically create a telephone network within the house without having to have a landline. So I had, when I built the house and I gutted it, I ran Cat 5 wires everywhere to every room. So I already had a Cat 5 wire running from here up to the dispatcher's office. So what I ended up doing was, splicing it and transferring it to what would be an RJ45 jack from the RJ11. And I just transferred it that way. I'll probably make a little video on that later. But it's cool because I have a phone upstairs, I have a phone there, and then I also have a phone for the short line job, which would be this all the way through here and through into the yard over there, into Whitehall Yard, which does not interfere with the main line until you get to the end of Fort Edward over here. That's when it connects back in again. So more about that. Anyways, this is Schenectady. As you can see, there's more. This looks a lot better now because I added the LED lights on this lower level. This was in the dark for a long time. And so actually I just finished doing this. I put the lighting from here all the way through to right there. So that looks a lot better. I'm a lot happier now that I can actually see. In Schenectady, I'm trying to figure this whole thing out here. I want to make this look very city-like. So what I did is I added a bunch of buildings. I added a road that's going to be kind of going over the tracks here. And the buildings are going to kind of mask it. And I like the way they kind of blend in with the photo backdrop. And obviously once I get the buildings looking good, not just the frames, I think that'll work out. This is what I don't know what to do yet with. So I'll figure something out. I did order a couple of backgrounds that are new. That I think might work here, and they're long. It's like 5 feet, so I could probably kind of blend it in with that one, and it would run all the way up to here. So, looking forward to that. I stopped the train here because I just want to show you real quick. This stretch of track, all the way from where we started, all the way up, around, and through the mountain, and over to the second level here, is one stretch of track. This is the first time that you see a sighting. So it's a long stretch of track, which is fine. But during sessions, sometimes things get a little clogged up, especially if you're running Amtrak. So what I'm going to do, originally I was going to make an entire huge siding over here, coming right out of staging, but I think I might just leave it because it does make things more interesting to have that little challenge there. But what I am going to do, I think, to help relieve traffic a little bit is I got to have a Schenectady station here anyway. So I think what I'm going to do is put a little siding here, just big enough for an Amtrak train, and it'll hook back in right here somewhere. And I might even go longer, just to have, in case I have a short train, I can throw it in here. So I might just do this up to here, bring it back in, and then have the station somewhere over here on this side, obviously. And I think it's going to be kind of cool to have that option. Anyways, so let's continue here. Nothing really much happening here. This is all kind of, there's not going to be a lot going on here, with the exception of I might bring a spur out from here and have some kind of smaller industry here. Between the buildings, it'll be very like urban type industry. But I'm not sure. Or I might just leave it and just fill it up with buildings and make it just a scenery kind of thing. So let me give myself a signal here, since I am up to that signal now. So I'm going to set my route. As you can see, once you have the signals, you're on CATs, you can set your routes. There's a train in the way here, so I'm going to take the siding, and I'll bring it all the way up to the third level, which is this is where it starts. The only problem is that I have 2 trains sitting here from my last session, so I'm just going to take it up to this control point, and then I'll just talk you through the rest of it, and I'll bring it back. In fact, you know what? I'm only going to take it up to Whitehall, because I don't want to have to back up that entire way. So, all right. So what's happening here? Okay, the gate. Let me talk to you about the gate a little bit. With the gate, I was doing great. It's been going great, and nothing really is a problem with the actual trackage or derailments or anything like that. But as you can see, in the winter, this happened 2 years already in a row. In the winter, these gaps really open up. So, but the train doesn't derail because since they're on an angle, one wheel jumps the gap before the other one gets to it. So it actually, the train rocks a little bit, but it allows it to stay on the track. So that actually worked out nicely. It wasn't intentional, it just kind of worked out that way. But what I wanted to show you was that originally I had developed these contact points, where once you close the gate, it connects just by touching the wire. It's great in the summer when this is a lot closer together, because that actually works. Oh, looks like I have a dead spot there. But what's happening now is that in the winter, they all separate, and I don't feel like having to bend them. And during the session, I don't want to take any risks. So what I did is I picked up one of these little guys, which is an RJ45 to kind of like a screw terminal, and then I basically just routed all the wires into there, and then I did the same thing here on the other side, and just kind of bridged it with this Cat6 wire. So now when I'm done using the layout to open the gate, I just pop that open, and it disconnects everything in one shot. I'm going to leave those there anyway. They don't change anything, but it's just a lot easier and a lot more dependable. So that's what I'm going to do. Just figure out what's going on here. I was doing some work here, so either way I was going to stop, but maybe that's why, the track is just dirty, because I was sanding and stuff. So, I got some leftover dust from the grout, and it's rather from the plaster. So what I did here that's kind of new is I added an extra section of the building just to kind of bring it all the way to the wall. I just got to paint the rest of it gray there on the bottom. But the biggest thing was that I added power. Sorry, this is going to be choppy until we get past this point. just a lot of dirt. You can see it. All the dirt got in the gaps. I got to clean the gaps up. Sorry about that. So I added power to all the tracks here, which required some gapping and some, obviously feeders. I had to add feeders there, feeders here. I had to gap because they are power fries. I had to gap everywhere. But now everything's working. I tested it with that switcher there. All tracks work. And that's nice because the last session, the only thing that I didn't like was that the person switching tried to go in with the locomotive. In other words, the cars were really close to the locomotive, so there wasn't a handle to kind of push them through or pick up. So once the locomotive got here, it was dead. And either way, all the plaster was very high. That's why you see all that scraped out stuff there. I had to lower it because it was lifting the locomotive, so it wasn't making contact. So now that I got it nice and flat, I got to repaint it. And, it's just nice to see that this is all working now because it wasn't working for years. So that's what's going on there. This is the biggest scene that I have. This whole quadrant is where all the scenery is really coming together. But this I've made a bunch of videos on, so check those out. But I really like the way it's coming. And I like the colors, and I like the backdrop. Backdrop's killer. I mean, it just really pushes the whole scene back. Makes it look really wide. So the depth is really nice. Now, I might buy another one just to kind of continue it. But I think that I might shoot myself in the foot by doing that. So I think what I'm going to do instead is make really tall pine trees here and kind of blend it in and start dropping as I go into this scene. Because the more I think about this backdrop here, the more I think I'm just going to have trees rather than creating some more picture backdrops back there. Because it'll look kind of different from this one, and then things start to look a little choppy after a while. So this whole scene I worked on a lot, and then I just kind of put it away because I was doing everything else. But the water is the most impressive thing, at least in my opinion. And I took this advice from Boomer Diorama, which is to use that GAC 500. That stuff is amazing. And like he said, it does not pick up dust. I mean, this thing's been sitting here probably for a month, and there's like barely any dust on it. And the dust that is there comes right off. It's not like, the other stuff that I usually use to make water. I forget the name of it. Envirotex. That stuff is like a dust magnet. I don't know why, but it just picks up dust. And then you got to keep kind of cleaning it off, and then you start scratching it, and So I really like this stuff. I'm going to continue to use it for my future water scenes. I might even go to the old water scene that I made before and just kind of throw this on top of it. This way that layer is less likely to collect dust. This is kind of pretty much stayed the same. There's nothing new here. Everything is looking good. Everything's working nice. I obviously have to finish, I have to add a lot more vegetation and trees and whatever, and static grass. So at least the base is there and the main idea is there, but it's really coming along nicely. And this is a great point where people like to take pictures here when they're at one of my sessions. The scene is just really, really nice the way it curves like that and comes around the mountain. So good photo ops here. Let's speed this up a little bit. And then we'll go around to the other side of the tunnel. All right, so like I said before, this is where the first siding is really available to the dispatcher. Main line is on the outside, or I guess whatever you want to call this side. And then the siding is on that side. So that's going to be where the Amtrak comes through. And this, not much has happened with the exception of I finally put plaster. I filled all this in and I kind of painted it just to see how this is all going to blend in together. I don't plan on doing much here with scenery, just a lot of trees. Just make it look like, untouched. And then as we get closer to the station, you'll see more homes and houses and stuff, and then you get to Saratoga Springs here. Now, Saratoga Springs, I've been making separate videos on that, so I'm not going to get too far into this right now, but as you can see, I kind of took it apart because I was working on making the floor shiny, because the real Amtrak station at Saratoga Springs has it's almost like a polished concrete. And I tried to get that from this GAC stuff, this Golden Products GAC. I used the 200 for this because the 200 is a lot thinner than the 500, but I explained all that. But this is really coming out nice, and I like that. Obviously, the whole point is you can see the train through the windows, And the guys really enjoy this scene here. Another great place to take pictures as they're operating. Here we're at the lumber yard. Again, nothing really happened here. But I am using it now to change cars out with work orders. So that's kind of cool too. I'm undecided as to what to do here. This has been I changed my mind 3 times already, as far as what to do. Originally I was going to make it just water, but it's a little too squarish. I was going to round it off and make it look a little bit more lake-like, and then I was going to bring the water down. That was the original plan. It was a little stream. Then I went to maybe I'll just make an abandoned kind of building here, but then I was then it's going to get in the way of the scene here. This is where you like to take the photos. So now I'm back to the water. I just got to figure out what to do there. If anybody has any ideas, please let me know. All right, so I'm going to be calling this Eddie or Edie Street, I think it's called, in Saratoga Springs. It's one of the only ones that doesn't have an overpass. It's at track level. This is the other water scene that I talked to you about. This is the one with the Envirotex. It's fine. It's good, but you can see, if I run my finger through it, you can see how much dust it picks up, right? So, and that's because I cleaned it, but look, that's the issue right there. And I know I was warned. Boomer, if you're listening, I know you warned me about this. You warned everybody about this. But anyways, lesson learned. I mean, it still looks okay, but I am going to try to make it better. Oops. See, that's what happens when you start working on things. Right back. All right, sorry. So the train actually ended up going into the spur that I was working on, so I forgot to clear the switch over there. Anyways, so this is also coming along nicely. This I plan on making just kind of like a parking lot, but kind of beat up with weeds and garbage cans and maybe a storage tank. I don't know, abandoned stuff. Real rough before it gets into the water here. So I just kind of painted it. It's more like a wash. You can still see the pink foam writing. So I got to just cover that up with a little plaster or something and figure out what I'm going to do as far as I think I'm just going to use grout and stuff like that and make it look more like a gravel parking lot rather than a concrete or asphalt parking lot. But anyways, continuing on, I've done a lot of scenery here. This is actually where I spend most of the time early on in my vacation. This water tower was here. But now that the scene is coming together, it's starting to look really nice here. Rather than sitting on pink foam, you see a little greenery here, a little dirt and stuff, so it looks nice. And then I'm going to do just overgrown weeds and stuff like that here, maybe a tree or two. And then this is where I really did a huge amount of work. I created this whole pad for the trucks to pull into. Obviously to come in and back up. Again, more videos. I've already made the videos on this. You've probably seen them already. And I also worked in this truck. This took a lot of time, but I'm really happy with how that came out. I know, Swift is, I've heard all the jokes on Facebook and everything, how terrible the company is, but that's, when I went on Google Earth, that was the trailer that was parked at Finch Paper, so I went with the Swift. I had one, so I decided to just go with it. But I did add headlights. I added all the hazard lights, which is nice. In the back here also. So I'm excited about that. And what's cool about it is that I got reed switches inside. So I just take this magnet out, and everything turns off. put the magnet back on, everything turns back on. And you get, I'm eventually going to put a magnet in the ground so that when the truck goes over it, or when I roll the truck over it, this is there's no wires going down into the bench wires. It's free. But if there's a magnet down there, it'll actually activate the reed switches by having the magnet in the ground. So I'll make it look like a drain or something, and that's the way it's going to pick up the reed switches. So I added a bunch of things here, barriers, these Jersey barriers I painted and weathered. Put a couple of tanks here, some guys having a conversation over here. I also adhered I glued all the track down. So this is all like permanent now, which is good because now I can start ballasting. Like you see, I started kind of making that thinner ballast that you would see on yards and spurs. So, I'm gonna add like weeds and stuff there, but this is the way. This is the beginning of that short line that I was telling you about for that other job. And then this is just a holding track here, which is part of the job sequence that I developed. This is going to be, I'm probably just going to make like a hint of road here. Nothing like major, just like a side road. They just part of this area here, this industrial area. I'll make it really cracked and messed up looking, and I'll probably put a car or two kind of like sitting there. And obviously there's all going to be like weeds and grass and, overgrown stuff and garbage and, all the stuff you see in this kind of location. The other thing is I decided to, because I think this would be kind of cool now that I have this job with the switcher, I decided to add an industry back there, and there's just enough room to get a track in there and then still a little bit of scenery in front of it. I just got to figure out what to do with those wires, but I'll figure it out. So what's going to end up happening is, here's your cement company, right? Lehigh Cement. The entrance point to Lehigh Cement is over here. Sorry, I got the cement train in the way, but you can see the turnout right there, and it goes up the hill, up onto the higher elevation here. And the reason I did that is because this is kind of like a chest level, so I wanted to be able to see the cars a little bit higher. So when you look at it this way, you're not completely blocked by any train, especially if there's like an auto rack train or something here. You can still kind of see. And then what I'm going to do is, right off this spur here, or right off this extra track, I'm going to put that turnout right here, which is then going to allow me to bring a track over on the edge here, around, kind of like, echoing this track. And then it'll allow me to have a job where I can spot 2 cars, or maybe I'll make, 4 cars. I don't know. I'll have to see if I can get another one of those buildings. But that's just another cool thing where you could take the switcher, go on to the other side and do that. Otherwise everything's kind of the way it was before with cements. If I didn't talk about this, I'm not sure if I spoke about this in the last video, but I did make the runaround much longer. It used to be just here, up to there. But what I did is I extended it all the way out to here. So now I can get much longer trains stored in here. Definitely helps. And then I added this curved turnout, so that it's a Walthers, and it's kind of on the tight side. Some of the cars do not make it through there. It's one of the really long cars, so I try to avoid that if I have like 89-foot cars or whatever it is, and go out the other way. But I can come in this way. Trains can drop off this way onto this track here, and then I could run around and push them or pull them or whatever I want to do. And then I added, once you get in here, this is the reason why I did this. You get, the rest of the short line, so you avoid the main line. And then I added a spur there and a spur here. Still unsure what I'm going to do, like as far as like what industries, but in the works. So this continues, this short line continues, and I'll show you in a minute, but it goes all the way out to the yard. So it's a really cool job going back and forth between the spurs here and the industries, and then the yard. And then also some jobs require going back in here, and then also it'll require going into that warehouse over there. Also, I'm going to add a turnout here. You can see it's already kind of in place. And then I'm gonna have space here to do an opposite side. I don't know what's going on here with this, but of course, I ran this perfectly with no stalling, and now it's acting up. And then, so I'll have another job to do there. The only thing that's cool about that is that it'll require you to go into this team track here and then shove back. So you got to it's like a little bit of a puzzle. You have to know what cars are going that way and what cars are going this way and figure it out before you get there. I originally had an industry placed here. It was going to be plastics. But I think what I'm going to do is have Fort Edward Station here because it's a beautiful station. I'm going to try to scratch build it if I can, or at least kit bash it. But I needed room for that, so I'm going to put it there. Plus, it was a little too weird trying to get a track in there this way or even this way. It was kind of weird. So, I'm just going to do it that way. And this way I have room for that big station there. All right, so anyways, as we come around here, these signals are new. This is the midway point, which I created a crossover here, which now I'm really happy I did because what's going to happen is, going back to the Fort Edward station, if let's say this hopper train is the Amtrak, and there's a train that needs to get by, well, Amtraks aren't that long, right? So you can squeeze the Amtrak into the Fort Edward track without any problems at all, and then have the freight trains go across the midway here, and avoid the Amtrak and then go back in to the main track over there. So I added these signals. They're all working correctly. The single-headed one obviously is for the main track, and the double-headed one is for the midway crossing here. So that's going to add another cool little option here for the dispatcher to bring around. Stinky chemical I haven't done anything with. It's the same. And then moving on to, this is the short line that I was telling you about. This, I don't know what I'm going to do here. I just put this here just in case. But I do have room to squeeze in a little spur here, or maybe I'll just leave it as a pocket here for a switcher or something. Whitehall, nothing has changed. I am going to have the station sit there for Whitehall. I know it's like right down the block, but they don't necessarily have to stop at every station. So we can make a schedule for that. And then Whitehall, the actual yard has not changed at all. This is all the same. It was good to have, though, this little transfer type yard because a lot of the jobs changed, equipment here. Not equipment, but rolling stock here. And it was kind of cool. It was also a good thing for the switcher job to, move things around, classify a little bit, and make sure that, the tracks, or the cars were kind of like in a string rather than just kind of scattered all over the place. So that's kind of cool. Over here, this scene has not changed. The only thing I did was I did something. I don't remember. Oh, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do in this corner here. I think I'm going to make this a point at Fort Edward where there's a split that goes to Vermont. So I might make like a fake track that just kind of goes that way and disappears, and that would be over, heading over to Vermont. Even though this is Whitehall, but it's Fort Edward's right there, so I'm just going to go with that. But this is all the same. I did put gates up over here. These are new. I use the same system, the Azatrax board with the servos and the lights, and then the sound is I forget the name of the company. I think it's MTI or something like that. But I use that company for all my sounds for all the gates. They're gonna be triggered right about now. And this I'm probably gonna make like houses over here. Or what I was thinking also was making the station sit right there in that space. The gates are working super smooth. This spur I've shown before. This is just it's actually a yard lead. I'm using it to kind of pull into here, but then also I'm spotting cars here for the sessions, which is kind of cool. This village scene, which is not it's Ticonderoga, but Ticonderoga doesn't look anything like this. This I haven't done too much to either, but I do have plans on finishing the pavement here and kind of dressing everything up, and then I got to figure out a backdrop. Definitely doing a backdrop for this because I needed to kind of like head back, and I think I know which one I'm gonna get. Is one with like hill, and you can see houses in the background, all kind of like going up the hill. So I think that might be the best way to make this work here, especially because I'm gonna blend it in with the houses here as well. So it'll just kind of like work its way up that way. So now we're in the helix. Obviously, this is gonna take a minute. It's only 2 spins, but it's still, so I'm gonna speed this up. Even though I said I wasn't gonna go up the helix, but there you go. So you know what? I'm gonna just leave it there, and I'll back it up later on when I'm done with this. So once you spit out of the helix, what happens is you come out here, right? This is the top of the helix, and then over here is the split for the reversing loop. So you go right, you go around the entire basement, and you end up here on the 3rd level. So this is what I consider my upper staging. It's Plattsburgh or Roos's Point, and I'm still figuring out what to do here. I'm not sure how I'm going to develop this, but I was thinking of making some kind of short siding here or in the back for the Amtrak to just kind of sit there before it heads back again south. I'll just take you back a little bit here. This is so Plattsburgh starts here. I'll probably have Plattsburgh Station sit right there. I got to figure out where Amtrak's going to do the most amount of have the best effect without having to like be blocked by all these trains here. So maybe instead of making the spur over there or the siding over there, maybe I'll make it here. Just kind of go behind that coal train there, and just have the Plattsburgh station there. I know Plattsburgh is kind of like a single main that just kind of goes through. So I don't know. Maybe I'll make it there instead, because this is just single track here, and that'll be the last point before it heads back. Got to figure it out. And then this is Willsboro, New York. So I have a siding here. There's nothing here that has changed at all. I did get these cameras, which are kind of cool for the dispatcher because they spin and they tilt also. They go up and down, so he can see this entire quadrant and what's happening here in case there's a problem. And there's another camera on the other side that picks up this room and the other room. I put it right here, so that spins around. You can see this room and the other room from here. And again, you can go up and down, you can zoom in. So in fact, sometimes I dispatch myself. I just go upstairs and I just run trains while I'm sitting upstairs, and I can see them running through the camera. So that's kind of cool. Which is, another thing that I like about this layout is that I can have a session, an effective session, and I can still run by myself and still have a great time doing it. It's not too big, it's not too small. I love the size of it. So anyways, I just wanted to show you one more thing. Over here, I worked on the yard. I didn't take you through the CSX loop, which is this main level, but I did get the ballast done on the main track, the double main all the way through. This is all new ballasting up to here. And then I also ballasted the yard with different ballast. It's a lighter grade, it's a finer, it's like an N scale, really, really fine type ballast. And I mixed it up a little bit here and there just to give it a little bit, of that, beat up kind of look. And I am going to go back with like grout, and also I'm going to put powders down and brush it. I'm going to make the rails rusty. I'm going to put a little bit of weeds here and there. But I want it to look, very old, and, not taken care of. And then I also made this crude oil kind of like storage facility here. It's going to be a transfer yard. So I am going to bring the benchwork out here a little bit. It's going to go out like this, and then it's going to go that way. So I'm going to put a tank, a big storage tank here. And then on this side where it sticks out, I'm going to make a transloading thing for trucks to come in and pick up, the oil. So that's kind of cool. I don't know if that's the way it really works, but I really don't care. And if that's not the way it works, then it'll be something else. But I got these at Springfield, these 10 cars right here, and I wanted to give them a home. So there you go. Success. So that's basically it. Nothing else I can see that's very new. The industry that I had back there for plastics, I just kind of put this building here. I'm probably not going to have this like this. I was thinking like maybe sand towers to blend in with this PVC pipe that I have here. So it looks nice, but I think what I'm going to do is buy the same kit and just make it like two. Or even just one, just to give it a sense of like that's where the sand is stored. But this plastics, elevator thing is going to go actually over here. And I'm going to make this the plastics company here off the yard. Future plans, I am going to put a switch here. It's going to be a cross double slip, whatever we call it. It's going to continue here. And then I'm bringing the benchwork out like this to the staircase. So this is going to be either auto racks all the way through. I'm going to actually go under the stairs there and just have like long tracks so to store auto racks. They probably get like, between 12 and 15 cars in there. And that, again, will give the yard master another chance to, the train drops off the auto racks, you pick it up, you kind of shove them in kind of thing. So that's in the near future. All right, so I'm going to just wrap it up there. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll try to make an update video as soon as I get some time. I can't promise that I will. It gets pretty busy at work now. So we'll see. All right, take care.